running through the park. Ladies and gentlemen, there will come a time in your life when the noise fades, the crowds vanish, and the applause silences. A time when no one believes in you, no one checks in on you, and no one stands behind you. Running through the park. That's the moment, the defining moment, when you must rise alone. And not just survive, but win. Running through victory begins not on the battlefield of the world, but within the chambers of your own mind. The loudest enemy you'll ever face is the one that whispers doubts in your ear, that tells you to give up, makes you believe you're not enough. But when you conquer that voice, the world outside has no hold on you. There will come a time in every person's life when the support system they once relied on disappears, when encouragement becomes scarce, when the only voice they hear is their own. It is in this silence, this vacuum of external validation, that the real journey begins. To win alone is not about proving anything to others. It is about proving to yourself that you are capable, strong, and unshakable, even in the absence of applause. The first and most critical step on this journey is to conquer the mind. The mind is not just a tool, it is the battlefield. Every emotion, every fear, every ounce of hesitation originates there. If your mind is chaotic, your life will be chaotic. If your mind is undisciplined, your path will be unstable. That is why mastering the mind is not optional, it is essential. In moments of solitude, you will come face to face with your thoughts in their rawest form. There is no one to impress, no one to distract you. It is just you and your reflection, both literal and metaphorical. What do you see when no one else is watching? Do you see someone strong enough to stay committed when the world looks away? That's the question you must answer, not with words, but with consistent, deliberate action. Winning alone begins with the decision to stay loyal to your goals even when nobody is checking in. It means getting up on cold mornings, pushing through physical and mental resistance, and continuing forward without the praise or encouragement that most people crave. It is in these very moments of silence that greatness is born. Solitude is often misunderstood as isolation, but in reality, it is a sacred training ground. It's the place where you strip away the noise and reconnect with your purpose. Distractions dissolve and clarity emerges. You begin to see not only what matters, but also what doesn't. The opinions, judgments, and expectations of others no longer hold the same power over you. You begin to walk your own path. Not one designed for you, but one discovered by you. It is important to understand that pain will visit you on this journey. Not just physical pain, emotional and spiritual discomfort. The weight of walking alone will feel heavy at times. Every moment of suffering is an invitation to grow. When embraced instead of avoided, pain becomes a great teacher. It carves strength into your character and reveals a depth of resilience you never knew you had. You begin to transform suffering into power, power into wisdom. In the end, winning alone is not a victory of ego, but of spirit. Running through the park, it is the quiet confidence of knowing that you built yourself up from within, that you did not wait to be saved. Running through the park, that you became the architect of your own becoming, and that no matter where life takes you, running the park, you now walk with the most powerful companion of all, your unshakable self. Motivation is a spark. It lights the fire. It gives you the initial push, and it can create powerful moments of clarity, ambition. But motivation is unreliable. It fades with time, appears the park, appears under pressure, and vanishes when discomfort rises. That is why the people who win alone do not rely on motivation. They build a relationship with discipline. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't shout for attention. It's quiet, consistent, and strong. It is the silent force that gets you out of bed before the world wakes up. It's the decision to train, study, or build even when your feelings beg you to take a break. Discipline is doing what needs to be done. through the park, especially when you no longer feel like doing it. When you are alone, there is no one to remind you of your goals, no one to track your habits or check your progress. This is the moment when discipline either shows up or it doesn't. Running through the park. If you've built your life on motivation, you'll stop, you'll pause, you'll make excuses, and you'll settle. But if you've trained yourself in discipline, you'll keep going. You'll move forward one small step at a time through the park without needing a reason other than the promise you made to yourself. And that is where self-respect is born, from the fulfillment of your own word. It's easy to act when the crowd is cheering. In through the park, it's easy to push harder when others are watching. But what about the days when it's just you running through the park? What about the nights when doubt creeps in and you question whether it's even worth continuing? That's when the value of discipline is truly revealed. It becomes the foundation that holds you steady when everything else feels uncertain. It gives you structure even in chaos, direction even in confusion, power even in your weakest moments. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-love in its highest form. It's choosing long-term purpose over short-term pleasure. It's giving your future self something to be grateful for. People often think freedom comes from doing whatever you want. Real freedom, lasting, empowering freedom comes from discipline, because when you are disciplined, you are not ruled by impulse or emotion. You are in control. When you win alone, you begin to appreciate the value of structure. You don't just wake up and hope the day goes well. You shape it. You plan it. You commit to it. Whether it's a morning routine, a workout, a creative project, or a business goal, discipline transforms dreams to reality. Without it, dreams remain ideas. With it, ideas become achievements. So, if you want to win alone, forget waiting for motivation. It may come and it may go. But discipline. Discipline is yours to develop. It's built through repetition, forged through discomfort, and proven over time. Running through the park, it becomes your armor, your tool, your way of life. And it is through this discipline that you realize the true thing. You never needed external force to drive you. You only needed to ignite your own internal engine and keep it running. In a world constantly buzzing with noise, opinions, and digital distractions, solitude can seem like an uncomfortable silence. But for those who learn to embrace it, solitude becomes the most powerful training ground. It is in being alone that we begin to hear clearly, not the voices of others, but the voice within ourselves. When you remove the noise of the crowd, you begin to discover who you are without influence, without performance, and without seeking approval. Run the park. You confront your fears, your weaknesses, your patterns, and you learn how to reshape them. Solitude is not about isolation, it is about elevation. Many people run from being alone because they confuse it with loneliness. But these two are not the same. Loneliness is the pain of not connecting with others. Solitude is the opportunity to reconnect with yourself. It is the space where clarity begins to form. It's the stillness that allows you to recalibrate your focus and strip away everything that is not serving you. In solitude, running the park, you begin to realize how much energy was being spent on trying to meet other people's expectations. Chasing applause, and start chasing alignment with your values, your vision, and your truth. In solitude, the distractions that once masked your inner voice begin to fade. You become aware of your habits, your inner dialogue, your cravings for attention or validation. This awareness, though sometimes painful, is the beginning of transformation. It is impossible to change what you're not conscious of. But once you see it, you can shape it. You can build a life that is rooted in authenticity, not performance. You learn to act out of purpose, not pressure. Solitude also sharpens your focus. When no one is around to influence your actions, you begin to see what truly matters. You prioritize with intention. You set boundaries that protect your growth. And most importantly, you develop a strong sense of self-direction. You stop waiting for someone to tell you what to do, and you begin to lead yourself. Every decision, every choice becomes yours to own, and with that ownership comes empowerment. There's also something deeply spiritual about being alone. Not in the religious sense, in the deeply human experience of witnessing your own growth. You see how far you've come, not because someone said so, but because you feel it. You've stood in silence, wrestled with your doubts, and come out stronger. Strength becomes unshakable because it wasn't borrowed, it was built. To win alone is to fall in love with the process of solitude. To realize that peace is not found in the approval of others, but in the acceptance of yourself. When you win alone, you become grounded. You no longer panic in silence, you thrive in it. You no longer fear solitude, you seek it. Because you know that in those moments, running the park, you are not losing anything. You are gaining everything that makes you powerful from within. The greatest clarity you will ever gain will not come from others. It will come from sitting with yourself in stillness, in silence, and in truth. Reflection is not just a habit. It is a mirror that shows you who you really are, without the filters, without the masks. Park without the need to impress anyone. When you win alone, you understand that regular self-reflection becomes a necessity. It is how you measure progress, how you evaluate your mindset, and how you adjust your direction. It is not about judging yourself harshly, about observing yourself honestly. This process, when done consistently, gives you clarity that no advice or opinion from others can replace. When you reflect deeply, you begin to ask questions that cut through the noise. Questions like, am I living by my values? Am I being honest with myself about my goals? Am I moving with intention or just reacting to life? These are not easy questions to answer through the park. They require courage. But without these questions, you remain stuck in patterns that do not serve your growth. Reflection is the uncomfortable but powerful tool that allows you to break free from illusions. Illusions about who you are, what you want, and why you're doing what you're doing. The truth is, most people avoid being alone because they're afraid of what they'll find in that silence. They're afraid to confront regrets, insecurities, or pain they've buried. But those who win alone understand that this confrontation is necessary. You can't heal what you ignore. You can't grow if you don't know where you're stuck. Reflection brings awareness, and awareness brings power. Once you see clearly, you can begin to take intentional action. You can cut out distractions, drop habits that waste your time, and build a life on what truly matters to you. Clarity also allows you to move forward with confidence. Secking through the park. You second guessing every step because you trust your inner compass. Fling through the park. You stop chasing approval because you've already approved of your own direction. Self-reflection builds this inner trust. Running through the park. It teaches you to listen to your gut, to recognize your patterns, and to course correct with wisdom rather than guilt. It's a silent skill that becomes your greatest guide. This practice doesn't require a perfect setting. It doesn't need a retreat, a guru, or even hours of your time. Sometimes it's 5 minutes of stillness in the morning. Sometimes it's journaling at night. Sometimes it's just pausing before reacting. These small moments of reflection accumulate. They add layers of insight, strength, precision to your life. And over time, they separate those who drift from those who lead themselves. Winning alone is not about isolation. It's about illumination. It's about turning inward, facing what's there, and using it to become sharper, wiser, and more resilient. Clarity does not arrive by accident. It is cultivated. And once you have it, no storm can shake you because you know exactly who you are, what you stand for, and where you are going. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers, but only if you allow it to be. Most people run from pain, try to numb it, or complain about it. But those who win alone see pain differently. They recognize that pain is not the enemy. It is a signal, a lesson, a chance to grow stronger. Running through the park. When you choose to face pain instead of avoid it, you start to develop a kind of power that cannot be taken away. Pain becomes the pressure that shapes your character, the fire that forges your strength, and the mirror that reflects your resilience. Running through the park, it is through pain that you learn who you truly are. There is no growth without discomfort. Just like muscles are broken down in training so they can rebuild stronger, the mind and spirit also go through the same process. The discomfort you feel in solitude, the sting of rejection, the weight of failure, all of it is refining you. Only if you lean into it instead of resisting it. Pain is the gateway between who you are and who you are becoming. The more you run from it, the longer you stay stuck. But when you face it directly, you begin to build inner endurance. You stop fearing difficult situations because you've already proven to yourself that you can survive them. The truth is, every person who has achieved something extraordinary has walked through their own fire. They have suffered losses, endured setbacks, and faced moments when everything seemed impossible. What separates them is not that they avoided pain. It's that they used it. They learned from it. They allowed pain to become their compass. When something hurt, they asked why. When something failed, they studied it. When something broke, they rebuilt it stronger. This mindset is not built overnight, but it is built in solitude. When you sit with your struggle instead of hiding from it. Pain also teaches you humility. It reminds you that you're human, that you have limits, but it also shows you that those limits can be pushed. It humbles you, but it doesn't weaken you. In fact, humility is part of strength. When you're not afraid to admit pain, you are not afraid to heal. The park. And healing is what allows you to keep moving forward with wisdom, not just toughness. It's important to understand that not all pain is physical, emotional pain, mental stress, the feeling of being misunderstood or unseen. These are deep forms of suffering, but they carry equally deep lessons. Through the park, they show you where your emotional muscles need to grow. They teach you the power of patience, the value of compassion, and the importance of mental control. When you win alone, you begin to see pain not as a punishment, but as a preparation. Running, and the most powerful shift of all happens when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That's when pain stops being something you endure and starts becoming something you use. Running through the park. That's when you rise, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Overthinking is one of the most common forms of self-sabotage. It traps you in your mind, creating endless loops of doubt, fear, and imagined outcomes. You begin to question every decision, can guess every step, and wait for the perfect moment that never arrives. In this state, progress halts. Time passes, opportunities fade. Through the park, and you remain stuck in your thoughts rather than moving forward in your life. But those who win alone understand one powerful truth. Action is the antidote to overthinking. You cannot think your way into success. Through the park, you must act your way into clarity, courage, and confidence. Taking action, even when it's imperfect, builds momentum. Shatters the illusion that you need to have it all figured out before you begin. In truth, no one ever starts with all the answers. Answers come through experience, through movement, through doing. When you act, you begin to gather real feedback. You learn what works and what doesn't. You discover your strengths. You uncover your weaknesses. This practical knowledge is far more valuable than any theory you could sit and analyze for hours. The habit of action strengthens your mindset. Running through a park. Each step you take builds trust in yourself. You begin to believe not because someone told you to, because you've seen what you're capable of firsthand. You stop waiting for motivation because you realize that action creates motivation. When you move forward, your energy shifts, your perspective changes. You become less worried about failing and more focused on learning. Through the park, you begin to prefer the discomfort over the stagnation of doubt. There is power in doing the small things consistently. Running through the park. You don't need to change your whole life in one day. You need to take one step right now in the direction of your growth. Phone call you've been avoiding, make it. That workout you've been putting off, start it. That dream you've been overanalyzing, build one small piece of it today. Stop negotiating with your fears. Stop waiting for the right mood or the perfect plan. Begin where you are, with what you have. The rest will unfold as you go. Taking action also silences the internal critic. It doesn't allow fear the space to grow. When you're busy doing, fear doesn't have time to multiply. You don't give it oxygen. Instead, you feed your courage. You strengthen your focus. You begin to feel alive. Not because everything is certain, but because you're moving with purpose despite the uncertainty. Action is how you reclaim your power. It shifts your identity from someone who waits to someone who creates. It teaches you to trust your instincts and respond to challenges with strength. When you win alone, you don't need permission to act. You become your own command center. You make decisions. You take responsibility. You shape your path not with words, but with work. And slowly, by step, you begin to realize that success is not about having the perfect plan. It's about having the courage to start and the discipline to continue. Running through the park. There will be moments in life when the support system you once leaned on falls silent, when encouragement is absent, and when the only person left to rely on is yourself. In these moments, you are faced with a decision. Either to wait for someone to rescue you or to rise and rescue yourself. Winning alone begins here in the quiet space where no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is validating your effort. It is a test of your inner strength, your mindset, and your commitment to growth without the safety net of approval. This journey doesn't start in the world outside. It begins within the mind. Because before you conquer any external battle, you must first win the war within. The mind is both your greatest weapon and your greatest weakness. If left unmanaged, it will sabotage you with fear, doubt, and endless distractions. But if trained with discipline, clarity, and purpose, the mind becomes an unstoppable force. This is why mental mastery is not a luxury, it is the foundation of winning alone. In solitude, there are no outside voices to blame. There are no excuses that hold weight. You're left to face the truth about your habits, your thoughts, and your patterns. To the park. This confrontation may be uncomfortable, but it is absolutely necessary. The truth is, most people avoid silence because they fear what they'll hear. But silence is where growth begins. When you win alone, every step you take becomes intentional. You stop relying on others to push you. You become the one who sets the pace. You begin to develop a relationship with yourself that is rooted in honesty, accountability, and resilience. You look in the mirror not to criticize, but to understand. You analyze your failures not to feel shame, but to extract lessons. You no longer move for recognition. You move because growth has become your responsibility and your responsibility alone. The path of winning alone also reveals who you truly are. Without applause, will you still perform? Without an audience through the park, will you still give your best? These are the questions that define your character. And when you choose to keep going despite the silence, you begin to build an inner foundation that no external force can shake. You realize that your value doesn't come from other people's opinions. It comes from the quiet confidence you earn through discipline and self-respect. There's power in learning how to move alone. It teaches you that self-belief isn't built by what others say. It's built by what you consistently do. You learn to trust your own voice, to follow your own path, and to become your own leader. This journey isn't easy, but it's transformational, because once you learn how to win alone, you'll never be dependent on others to validate your worth. You'll walk through life with strength, running through the clarity and quiet power, knowing that everything you've become, you built from the inside out.